Hello, hello, lovely people. Welcome to another episode of the DevRel show. Every time, 15 minutes before the show, I book the time with the guest and we just go about like some house rule about to be sure how the live stream is going to go. And every time I'm like, yeah, I really need to lower down the volume of the intro, but like I need to redo the video. And every time I forget, but at the same time, every time the video is playing, I'm just like, I love the sound. Like I'm just pump me up to start the show. I love the music.
Yeah.
It gives you energy. So like maybe I will just stop to try to think about the fact that like one day I should probably lower the volume and just keep it like that. But also really excited because conference season is at halt. It's summertime, which means that I'm at home a lot more than I'm used to, which also means that I can do that live stream a little more frequently. So for those of you that may not have known, I changed the formula a little bit, not the formula of the show, but like the initial thought was like, previous job, I was doing the DevRel show, but it was a smaller company. I was doing less conferences. So I was doing a live stream with my employer every other week. So I was like, the week that I'm not doing the live stream of Cube First, I'm going to do the DevRel show. So I was trying to do the DevRel show every other week. But when I changed job, started to travel again, and I tried to keep like every other week within my schedule. But because of the trips, I was not able to do that many shows. So now I'm trying to do one every week when I'm available, which is not every week, but that also gives me the opportunity to do more shows because I have a lot of people in my wait list. Joel, I can't remember when we started to think about you coming in the show. Probably a year ago.
Probably a year. I that would be my guess. Maybe even more. And yeah, I think we both have with our work. It's like there's seasons of work, right, where you're like focused on one thing and then you're focused on another thing. So. It's taken some time, but very happy to be here and just to chat with you. It's been a number of years since we've chatted. So looking forward to it.
That is true. So thanks for being a guest. Also, thanks for being patient with that. But hopefully I'm going to be able to get the other guest on the wait list a little bit faster. There's still a long wait list, so that may take time, but at least that's going to go faster with that kind of like new formula. But again, how is life?
Life is good. So I mean, I could talk very freely and openly about all the things, but this being a DevRel show, and people are probably most curious about what I do for work and what DevRel means to ngrok, which is maybe not what I expected or what other people would expect. So yeah, my name's Joel Hans. I've been at ngrok for 2 years now. I think probably like almost 2 years, like a year and 11 months and 2 weeks or something. It's very close to that anniversary. But I was also, before I joined ngrok full time, I was a freelance writer. And that was where Fred, you and I interacted with the previous company you were at, and I was freelancing for them as well. But then ngrok kind of convinced me to go to the dark side and become a full-time employee again, and here I am 2 years later, doing very, very different stuff than I was back then, but loving the challenge, loving the diversity of things in front of me, and having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I have a weird memory, but like it was at Cube Shop, if I remember. Yeah, it's just because the last job I had, I went to 3 companies with exactly the same role, meaning that like when they hired me as a developer advocate, it was the product Cube First. That was a company-ish that was acquired by Cube Shop. So it was kind of like a project from Cube Shop.
Right.
But after that, they got acquired by Civo, but they kept independent. So we were like Cube First. And we started to work on a second project. So we decided to rebrand. So from Cube First, we became Construct. And after that, Construct was totally absorbed into Civo, but like I was being let go like just before that. But so I had like 3 company names within a year and a half, 2 years, not even 2 years.
People are like, why are you hopping around so much? And it's like, it wasn't me. It was, they're changing it under my feet.
Exactly.
Honestly, like the biggest, I don't think this is any like news or like a novel thought, but I think that the biggest challenge of DevRel, if you know, like, however you think of that word, because everyone again has different practical, you know, ways that they're doing it. It's that like the ground is always shifting under your feet, and you have to always be, I don't know, you have to be adaptable or agile or something, because you don't know that like one quarter you're asked to do a certain type of work, the next quarter it's a different type of work, the next quarter the company gets rid of everybody and you've got to go kind of like find your feet again. And it feels unique in our world compared to the people that I interact with a lot, like in the companies. It feels like we have like a extra stability problem that we have to constantly navigate.
It is. And it's one thing that I like and I don't like about the role. Like the fact that like there's so many things you can do within that role is something that I like. I have ADHD. I get bored really easily. So if my job was always doing the exact same thing all the time, every day, I would get bored out of my mind and I would not do that kind of job. So I love that called versatility of the role in terms of like, it's basically 10, 20 jobs in one, because you need to have expertise or good enough in like, as a, like, depending on the role, like you're either a technical writer or a technical support or support engineers or engineers / developer or social media manager or community manager or a public speaker, or like there is so many of those like role that you put together, and it depends on the company. But it's also the part that I do not like. And I say that often. People, if you join the show before you hear me, I'm repeating myself. But like, you know, when you're an engineer or developer and you look for another job as an engineer or developer, the job is always the same. What's different is like you're going to work on a different product with different technologies, maybe different practices, best practices or tools. But at the end of the day, you are building software. Yeah. Now it may be different with AI, but like at the end of the day, you still like the end results of what you do is software. So it's clear, like you're looking for an engineering job, no matter where you go, it's just the tools and the programming language or libraries you're going to use that's going to be different. But with developer relation, it can mean so many things. So it's also it's why I like when you said like, when you talk about the fact that like, it can be different depending on the role. And it was also different like when ngrok approached you, and it was different from what you taught. So let's talk a little bit about this. What does that mean? Like you started as a, by the way, I need to say that before I forgot, you were and probably still an amazing writer. I was really not super open working with an external technical writer when I joined the company, because I've had bad experiences. And usually, and there's a lot of good people and company doing that. I was just talking with a friend at HackMember recently. I love their work. They're doing great, but most of the people are not doing great. But you were amazing. So I really liked working with you. So I just had to say that. I know I'm cheesy, but when it's due, it's due. And I like to say those kind of things when
it's due.
With that said, though, you switch from purely writer's role to developer relation. Actually, your first role, I'm looking at your LinkedIn right now. You started as a senior developer educator. What does that mean? What was your job when you started at ngrok?
I mean, I think that's indicative of the whole, like, DevRel can be so many different things to different people. Because we didn't, like, at the time there was other people in the company that had more like developer advocate role, like the sort of like kind of titles and scope that you would expect. And they were doing more like conferences and, all like that side of things. And I was brought on to be more, I'm trying to think back. It's like been 2 years now. It feels like 2 decades ago, but yeah, mostly to be like, one of the roles that I think is really cool in DevRel and what I was trying to do at the time was like, you really try to be the expert in the product of anyone, of all the customers, of all the engineers, of even the CEO. Like, you are the person that you could get on, maybe with the exception of like support engineers or customer engineers who really have to be like in the weeds of implementation. But you kind of take on that role of, I'm going to go deep into this thing and I'm going to be an expert and I'm going to share what I've learned about it. with other folks. So my first kind of like success at ngrok was writing about, ngrok has this this configuration, let's say a configuration language called traffic policy that lets you manipulate traffic as it's passing through ngrok when ngrok's operating as your gateway between the public internet and the services that you have running. And I wrote a like 10 things that you didn't think you could do with traffic policy. And even the engineers who built it were like, I didn't realize that you could manipulate it in that way. And that was really fun. And that kind of set me off on that. Like for a while, it was like, yeah, I'm going to be the expert in this thing. And I'm going to mostly produce written content, but I ended up doing we were talking before, like some live streams where I was doing demos. I started recording video, trying to like product marketing around new features or new products. So it really kind of, the first like 6 months to a year really was really like in that mode. And then in the second year, it's really changed to be something quite different, to the point where like I honestly am like, I'm not really a DevRel person anymore. Like we do some DevRel things, but it's like the Venn diagram is kind of like it's diverging in an interesting way. So I'm happy to continue to ramble about the story, but like I'm also kind of curious of like, where do like the people that you talk to and that you have on this show, like, do other people feel as though the DevRel role is changing in a way that is unique or like we haven't seen in the past couple of years? Like, I feel like it's fundamentally different now than it was 5 years ago. And like the seismic change is bigger than it used to be.
I mean, it depends on the guest. Some people had that feeling. I have the feeling that like it changed a little bit, but I would be curious to understand like what you mean that like
Yeah.
fundamental change. Because for me, the role is still the same that it was when I started 14 years ago. I want to help developer being successful. My job is to give love to developer, which I love when I say that at conferences and everybody's afraid. I'm like, no, I'm not going to kiss you. It's just my way of doing things. But like, I like that role for me is being like that friendly, social, technical, approachable face of the company. And I hope you're going to be successful in my product. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much because I'm building connection with developers. How I do it may have changed a little bit, but like at the end of the day, that was always my goal. Like I connect with developer, I evangelize and things. This is also why my first title was technical evangelist or developer evangelist. I can't remember, but also I represent developer internally, so I bring the feedback to the product team. I quote unquote defend the developer audience for the rest of the business that may not have the same expertise or the same approach to developer that could maybe sometimes ruin what I'm trying to say or what I'm trying to do or what I'm trying to build. But also maybe I don't know, maybe I'm too much into my old way of thinking about what is DevRel that I don't see like the kind of like change that may happen in the rest of the industry. There's definitely a change happening because of AI, and maybe I'm naive, but like when I think about that, I feel like, and again, also maybe I'm preaching for my own stuff, but like I feel like DevRel is even more important right now because we're still heading one layer away from the human with AI at different ways of doing businesses, and I feel like the human needs to connect with human, and I know it's not scalable all the time, but I also think your role is even more important in that AI era. Anyway, I'm blabbering now.
I think that's like, is kind of what I've been seeing too, is that like even the stuff that I experienced within ngrok is like it's not purely driven by AI transformation or anything. But I do think as what you were just saying as part of that is like people want like a friendly, familiar face to interact with, or like you get a newsletter from the same person every month and you're like, oh yeah, like Fred, and like their names, like your name gets associated with the brand, like with the company. And so that's what I found at ngrok, is that like DevRel has ended up pointing a lot more, it looks a lot more like brand marketing than it does the like technical, like recording a demo of how to use a product or even giving talks about like a certain feature of the product or anything like that. It's a lot more like, what I think is really important now is that, yeah, people want to feel like they're talking to somebody, and I think like AI can produce a lot of stuff, but we need smart people with good taste and have a high bar for quality to filter that through, or to, you know, to rev on it and to make it better. And so I feel like that's where it's like DevRel can differentiate itself from others, is by being like, we understand that we could produce like 1 million blog posts tomorrow about every nuance of our product, but we're going to intentionally approach it in a way that like shows that we care about our product, we care about the developer experience, or we care about, you know, making this like just giving you a good feeling while you're interacting with us. So yeah, it's really changed to be a lot more of that. Like, and ngrok has a sort of unique problem in that we get people, when people think of ngrok, people who have heard of it, they think of the ngrok from, gosh, I don't know, like 10 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, which is like, oh yeah, it's that tool that lets me like create a tunnel into localhost, and I can share that with my friend. And while that is still true, like that is still where we get the majority of our signups every single day, is people wanting to do things like that. Now it's also changed to be more like people wanting to do agentic work and connect agents across network boundaries and all that kind of stuff. But we have this thing where we're trying to like change the perception of what ngrok is, that it's production developer infrastructure. You can run your services behind it in production. It's like, it's a fully fledged API gateway. We have DDoS protection. We have a WAF. We have all of these things that you need. And so that's where the brand stuff becomes really important. It's not so much teaching them like how to use the product. Like that's a problem that we need to solve for later. The problem right now is getting people to perceive us in the way that that like matches the reality of the product today. So it's a really unique version of DevRel. I think maybe it's more common than I know, but it feels like it's an unexpected swerve for me.
I think I now understand more. I think it really depends. I don't know if it's like a general industry change. I mean, I only have one job. I do not know what's happening everywhere. But I feel like what you described, from my experience, and I may be wrong, it really, I think it depends on the company and what's the needs of the company. And I think all those things are valid. Like if your job is to generate technical content and it's mostly the only thing you do, it's valid. Like we need people to be able to do that. If it's your DevRel job, it's fine. You still connect with developer. You still help them being successful. So from my point of view, it's the job. If your job is to do a little more what you describe, it's fine too. It's still DevRel. You still connect with developers. So I think it really depends. Like right now, as an example, I'm a little bit in between of you know, the what do you describe, a more traditional way of doing DevRel, which is like, okay, I need to like do videos about those features and anything, but also I need to, you know, be the voice and connect with people and be the person that people recognize. Also trying to change the perception, or change, like, make people understand that, like, hey, it's not the same ngrok that it was 10 years ago. Like at TinyMCE, I still create technical content, not as much as I would like to, because we have a need, especially in videos. Like I want to create more technical videos because I think there is a need for that. And I don't think we have enough to, be sure that developer have what they need to be successful with the product. But at the same time, I think the biggest work I have to do is first just establishing myself as like the face of TinyMCE. Someone used to do my job before. Now I'm here. Okay, I've been here for a year. It's more in place, but I still have work to do. But we have something a little bit similar about what you described. TinyMCE, whether you know it or not, exists for more than 20 years. And usually people use TinyMCE at some point. It was prior to WordPress moving to their what they call the Gutenberg way of writing blog posts. They were using TinyMCE. It's used in Moodle. It was used in Umbraco. It was used in multiple places. People used it in the past, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And they have the impression that, like, oh yeah, it's just a whole software. I'm like, no, we rebuild things. We update our best practices. We use like latest technologies. We improve security. We improve stability. We improve accessibility. It's not a product, even it's sensibly, it's still a rich text editor. We didn't change like our mission. We help people create rich text content, but people kept the assumption that like, no, it's like you're not part of the cool kids anymore. So people, I don't know what happened, with all respect for people in the team. At some point, I think we dropped the ball and we stopped being out there with developers. So now there's a lot of people, when I go to conferences, like, oh, TinyMCE is still a thing. I'm like, we're like profitable business is going well.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh, I didn't know you were still there. You still exist. So all that to say, a big chunk of my job right now is back to the basic of like creating awareness, like just telling people that like, first, we exist, we're still there, we're kicking ass, great product, give it a try it. But even that, like quite often I don't even talk about my product. I'm just like sharing like cool stuff for developers that are unrelated to my product because, product pitches, nobody likes that, or mostly nobody likes that, especially developers. So I'm just here to talk about other stuff that helps you to be successful, but I'm still Fred from TinyMCE. So hopefully you're going to be curious enough to like look at it and like maybe try it and maybe become a user / a customer. So
I mean, it honestly sounds, it sounds like it's, part of the same problem space that I'm dealing with. And apparently I have a delivery here outside.
You need to go pick the package.
My dog is going to go nuts in a second. Hopefully no one will be able to hear that.
That is not a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that it's very true these days where the sort of like tech hype cycle is so fast and new tools are coming out all the time, new competitors. Like I have like social media monitoring tools for ngrok. And I think now literally every day I see someone on Hacker News or on Twitter or on Reddit. And they're like, I made an ngrok alternative that you can self-host and you can, it's such a thing now that I really do think that like awareness, as you said, is so important, because as people are using coding agents to build stuff really fast, and like if you're not even in their brain like as an option, like they don't even think of TinyMCE as an option, they're not going to tell their agent to build it. They're just going to rely on whatever it says, and they will completely ignore the idea of like investigating all the options and doing a deep dive and everything. So it really, really feels that like, DevRel, I feel like this is kind of what I think of when it's like the change is like, I feel like DevRel has always been like a big chunk of it was like, you're spending time on like onboarding, you're spending time in the documentation to make the experience better and make it really smooth. Like, the time to activation or the time to like the aha moment with the product was like, that was held as the top, like, like the key metric for DevRel teams. If you could reduce that by X%, then you're doing a great job. And now it feels like, oh my God, onboarding be damned. Like, I just need to get people in the funnel. I need to get them using it. Because there's so many other options. They're wealthy. People are, developers are wealthy for choice. So that's been again, like an interesting, it's like, okay, well, how do you grow awareness in a way that feels unique and differentiated and stands out again among there's so many people producing content. It's like, how do you make yours interesting? So we've like, I've been very fortunate to be able to bring on a team of developer educators into this like developer education team, and we're trying to do some weird stuff. We're taking risks. We're writing Sam Rose, who's one of the people on the team, a just phenomenal writer, wrote like a 7,000 word blog post about quantization and how quantization works in LLMs to like reduce the size, if you will, of LLMs, and make them, something that we can run on our local machines, or like it's scalable to run on the vast server farms that, OpenAI and Anthropic and all the others are using. And then just hoping that someone will read one of these things just purely for the sake of learning something that has nothing to do with ngrok. And then they're like, oh yeah, ngrok, like I remember reading that thing, like maybe I should check them out again, and like maybe I should consider them.
Yep.
It feels like a big risk, but I don't know 100% if it's going to pay off in the way that we want it to, but we sure are having fun while we're doing it. And I feel like that means a lot in our role, right? Like just having fun, experimenting, building stuff, remembering that we all have this like innate, like we want to cobble stuff together and see it live and share it with people. And the more that we can do of that, I feel like the better off we all are as DevRel people.
There is so many things to unpack in what you said. And I don't know if it's been there for a long time. I don't know if you have it as a guest, but I just noticed there's like a notes tab now in StreamYard, and it's pretty there since forever. So now I decided to take notes, which was a mistake because usually I don't. So I only remember, I have ADHD, so like I only remember the last thing the guest talked about. So I don't have 10 ideas to follow through, but I did the mistake to take a lot of notes with you because everything was like, oh, I want to talk about this, but I'm not going to cut him. I want to talk about it. And now I have so many things to say. So maybe I want to take notes in the future. No, actually, that was interesting. It's also the reason why I have so many things to say. The last notes I took was about, taking risk and having fun. I can't agree more with all that. And people will say like, yeah, it's a job, like, or I don't know, like the leadership team, like, hey, it's a job. We pay you not to have fun. We pay you to do the outcomes. But I firmly believe that, like, hopefully most people should have a little bit of fun at work. I mean, it's work. We have to do it because we need money. Nobody is like, yeah, or actually it's not true. Some people wake up in the morning and they're super excited to go to work because that's their life. I'm not like that. For me, I love my job, but at the same time, I do it because I need money. But especially in a role like that, I always say, like, you need to be excited about your product, or you can be excited about your product if you start a new job. But it also, the having fun part is also, it translates to the users, or the people, or the customers, or the developers that will see your content, that will saw you at events. If you're bored out of your mind, if you look like you're being forced to do things, that won't show well for the company. It will be harder to create connections. So I think that the having fun part, as much as, again, I seems like I'm preaching for my own things, I'm getting paid to have fun. But at the same time, yeah, of course, I need to have outcomes and stuff like that. But like, I think it's important. But taking risks is something that, like, I think we lost a little bit with DevRel, because DevRel, it started before I started to do DevRel, but not that long before. But it was like, yes, we had goals, especially because my first job was at Microsoft. So, everything was KPI and everything. But at the same time, it was more about, let's do what needs to be done right now and what makes sense to be done right now. And hopefully that's going to be fruitful. But you never know. And the problem I see in some companies is that we're so tight with, like, those are the goals that we need to achieve. And I need to write 10 blog posts this year. And I need to do 4 events this year. That now we don't have, like, space anymore to, like, hey, there's an opportunity right now to do something. There's an opportunity to write 7,000 words article about I don't know how to say that word in English, quantization from the ground up article, because this is something that I think is cool. This is something that I think will resonate with my target audience. It's not about the product, but it's what I call that Trojan horse content. As you said, people will come on the blog, they will read about it. They're like, oh, that's amazing. And they were like, oh, what the heck is ngrok? Let's say they don't know it, and they go look at it, and maybe they don't need it right now. But that's another thing that is really hard to reconciliate with the rest of the business, because how we do business, it's fast. We need, like, to have the return on investment fast. We need to make money fast. We need to see more user fast. But developer relation, yes, we can have quick win. But from my point of view, it was always about medium to long-term impact, meaning that, like, that blog post may not have broad customer right now or users right now, but as you said, maybe in 2 or 3 months, that person will, like, hey, I need to do X, and like, oh, I remember ngrok is doing what I need, and like, oh, they wrote that really nice article, and that article that was unrelated to the product brought them back 2 or 3 months after, when they needed what you're selling or what you're offering, or they changed job or they changed project. So I think it's important. So feeding the top of the funnel, as you said, I think it's a little bit, if we do our job well, that's the positive side effect. Like, we're going to feed the top of the funnel, but it may not happen right now. It may take time for that to happen. because it's about the people, it's about humans, about building relationship. So, but it's quite often hard to fit that within the structure of like how we do business in this way.
It's like, oh yeah, we need results. You have KPIs to hit. I have like two pretty strong thoughts about DevRel so I've been leading this team for a year and change, and now we're up to 3 people, which is not by any means a massive team. I'm sure you've had people on here that have larger teams than that, but I think that the first thing is like forcing DevRel people to produce like X number of pieces of content every week or month, like whatever like holding people to a calendar, I feel like is really dangerous, because it leads us to burnout. It leads us to producing like subpar content for the sake of just like, I have to hit this deadline, right? So I've really tried to, like orchestrate this team and talk to leadership and like kind of have this negotiation of like, as you were saying, it's like the long-term benefit is going to pay off here. Like the long tail is better than like forcing Sam Rose or someone else to like just keep churning away at more stuff. So that's one of the principles. And then I used to, when I would like interview people for roles that I was hiring, I used to ask them like what side quests they would want to go on in their job, like the fun thing that it's like, because like, I don't know, like companies like Google, they used to have things where you get to like every Friday you get to work on your personal project, whatever. And then I used to frame it as like a side quest, which I think in hindsight made it feel like it was more work for you. So it was like, you have your normal job, but then you have your side quest that you have to like add more hours on. And then I was listening to this like 5-hour podcast about the Disney Corporation, and like from the very beginning of the 1920s. And there's this phrase that it was like Disney's folly. So like Walt Disney, the person, he had this folly, which was Disneyland. And it was this like ridiculous idea that was wildly expensive, and stole a bunch of time and money away. But it was like this huge risk, and the company gave him the time and space in which to take this massive risk, and they didn't know if it was going to pay off or not. And clearly it has, right? Now Disney is the massive conglomerate that it is. And so I'm like, I kind of like, I want people to have follies. Like I want them to have these things that get to absorb some of their time that would normally be spent on that, like, oh, I have to produce these things all the time. And it might fail spectacularly, but at least we're trying big things and we're enjoying the process. And so if it fails, then it's like, well, I had fun doing it. And, like it was a good experience for me, a good learning experience.
This is the thing though. I mean, like, even if you fail, I'm not a big believer to like, oh, there's a reason for everything in life and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, there's always, I think, at least a learning. You learn something, maybe not in a personal life, which should happen, like just shit happen, but like at work, you try a project, it didn't work. Okay, take the time to understand what didn't work. Like, did we focus on the wrong thing? Was the execution not about blaming? Was it like that was really nice, but like it did not, like, I don't know, it did not work with our target audience? Like no matter what, but it also helps you to bring you to the next thing, and hopefully based on what you learned, the next thing is going to be a little bit better. Or are you going to fail faster if it doesn't work? Because we have a tendency also to try like always do the things that like everybody's doing, and that's fine, but like as a business, your goal, unfortunately, or for the better or worse, is to make more money. And to do that, you need to innovate. You need to try new things. You need to try new approach. You need to target new audiences. And it's impossible to do that when you have like a full calendar of like, oh no, I need to do all those things. And I have no space to breathe, or I have no space to just go crazy and brainstorm and think about those things. So I really don't have time to do something else. So I can understand why, especially like the side quest, I can understand also why people are like, thank you, but no thanks.
But yeah, having actual time dedicated in your amongst everything else to actually, you know, dig into this stuff. Like, I feel like that's super, super important. Yeah, we learn better when we're having fun along the way. And so we're trying to live that ethos as much as we can. You know, again, whether or not it's successful in the end is sometimes, you know, some of it's yet to be seen. But you know, at least I'll be able to say, like, I tried something here, and you know, take or leave what happened, but at least I tried to, as you said, like, innovate, because I think that's probably the thing that I was just talking to my my boss earlier today, and I mentioned like an omen, like a dark cloud that kind of is like hovering, and I think about, and I think that's the biggest one, is like, am I doing things in a unique way that like stands out? And whether that's, you know, whatever the DevRel task is there, it's like, am I doing it in a unique way? But it's so hard to do, as you said, if you don't have the breathing room to do the, like, create the deep creative thought to get there.
And we've been talking for a while. Usually I would say, like, hey, that's time to move to demo. But I have one last question about that, because first, I really want to know the answer. Secondly, I think that could be beneficial for other people. And if you don't want to share about it, that's fine too. But how were you able to bring that, like, way of thinking to ngrok? Because I know ngrok as a product. I do not know it as a company. I know a couple of people working there, but, like, I don't know the culture. Like, at many places where I've worked, it would be really hard, as much as I would like to. And I think I would have, like, the being able to show the benefits of that. It still doesn't fit within, like, you know, like a square fitting in a round hole at the business level, because, you know, we need to measure things, we need to have KPIs and metrics, and we need to do this, and we need to measure how many new users we get out of it and all those things. So it's like, DevRel is already, I don't know if DevRel is already a hard sell most of the time, because it's a little bit harder to measure depending on what we do. And now on top of that, you're like, hey, also want to try to innovate, and I may fail spectacularly, but maybe I'm going to be successful, or I just need time to do things that are not part of the spreadsheet that we measure. Like, if you want to share about that, like, how was it received? How do you sell the idea? Was it just part of the culture, and your boss was like, fuck yeah, like, I was waiting for someone to do something like that?
That's yeah, it's like trying to peel back the lineage of it. I think, as much as I would like to claim, you know, credit for having established this culture and you know, done all this work myself, I think I've really been fortunate that leadership has been, like, very on board the idea, if not having generated the idea, like, looking at the landscape of the business and the problems they had in front of them. Like, the brand side of things was, like, that percolated up, aside from, like, alongside, like, product usability things, and the fact that we don't, you know, there was, like, a couple of big problems that they surfaced, and that was one of them. So it's like, as much as I would like to say that I, like, pitched them this idea and they were like, oh my God, what a brilliant idea. I think it's just been, more than anything, like, trying to lead by example myself. And then my boss, the chief revenue officer, like, she has been enormously helpful in, like, trying to get the people, like, I try to lead the way, and then we get other people in to join the team to kind of, like, follow and add on to that. And then, like, someone else wants to come and do the same thing. We've kind of been like, it's like a snowball that's rolling. And I feel like at this point, we've really gotten to the point where we, like, understand what we're trying to do. And we have the evidence that, like, we can pull all these metrics of, you know, these blog posts and what they've drawn, and the impressions and the comments and everything like that. And we can't say that X number of people signed up because of that, but we can say that every impression, or every time someone reads one of these blog posts, we're doing that work of changing perception, and we're doing that work of making them maybe consider us. And the evidence that we get, that I can continue to use to sell that story and say, like, hey, we need to keep doing this, is that every once in a while we'll get a comment on Hacker News or Reddit or something, and they'll say, like, I just heard about ngrok, and I don't know much about them, but they write cool blog posts, so maybe I'll go and research them a little bit more. And it's like, great. the
Thank you.
process is working. Like we are slowly but surely changing the hearts and minds of developers. And yeah, if we can at least, you know, try to move that a little bit, then it's a success, and we'll keep doing it until, you know, I don't know, until I'm told that the time is up. I'll keep having fun.
I like that. I like that. And we're gonna move to the second part, because we could probably talk forever about interesting topic though. But like, yeah, the stream is already long, so let's move to the demo. But before that,
Yeah.
I just want to leave with one thing that may, like, not everybody may agree with that, and it's not me trying to be off the hook, but about, you know, that having that space to be able to innovate and try new things. Where was the most impactful at every jobs I had? I had too many jobs for my own good as a developer advocate, where at the companies where I had no fixed goals or KPI. They were just like, you're developer advocate, do developer relation things, and do whatever you need to do to obviously help the company being successful. And I was basically deciding what I think was the most impactful. And like at one point, it was like, okay, we need more video content. Let's start a live stream. And at some point, I was like, hey, we do not know what our users want. We need a community, build a community. And at some point, I was like, hey, we're an open source company. We have no proper contribute document or like practices about people that will at some point do pull requests. So I was like, I think we need that to like show the example and be a good open source player. And every time I was like, I think this is what I need to do, I had to do it. And at some point I was like, hey, you know what? I do not know that part of the product. I'm going to disappear for 2 days. I'm going to learn about this. I'm going to come back. I'm going to be able to do other stuff with that. And first, the and maybe that sounds like crazy talk for most people, because everybody have goals and KPIs, but like, I don't think I was doing nothing. And as I said, I think I was even more productive and have a bigger impact, because I didn't have that pressure of like, oh yeah, I said at the beginning of the year that I had to write 6 blog posts, or I don't know, I had to reach out to like had that many readers for no matter the number of blog posts I do. And now I need to focus on that, versus like there's something more exciting that would be more impactful, or something that is just more enjoyable to do right now, or something happened in the industry. You know, a small example that I really love, and after that I shut up. You know, that all we talked about it in the last live stream, but like Sony with PlayStation, that when like, hey, we won't do any physical disc anymore, and people went crazy about it for different reasons. I want to talk about it again. My last guest was pumping up, and it was like, that's great. But GitHub, like the day after, they were like, hey, we still believe in physical disk. If you want a copy of your GitHub repo, just submit the form. And I don't know, the first 100 people. And it's stupid in a way that like, it's just like a cool gadget to have. Like, do you really need your like code on your repo to be burned like on a CD and have it ship? But like we're like surfing the wave of like, this is what everybody's talking about right now, at least everybody in the gaming industry, even to people outside of the gaming industry. We're just going to have fun. In that case, that cost a little bit of money because they had to burn CD and ship them. But at the end of the day, I was like, even if I don't want that, even if I don't need that, like that was a cool, even if there is no educational around it, like the team, and maybe it was not DevRel led, but like my point was like the team as the freedom to be able to like, let's ride that wave, because that's going to be a cool thing. And like people talked about it, even people that were like, that's stupid, why should I do that? They still talked about it. And from my point of view, that was brilliant. But you need to give the freedom to people to be able to do those things if they're stuck to the neck with goals and KPIs. It's
absolutely
possible.
Yeah, there's something about like trusting. Like DevRel operates best when it's in a high trust environment. Like I trust you to make the right call about what could have the most impact, and yeah, just go out and do it. And it's, if you don't have the trust, then it's hard. I think that's where a lot of DevRel kind of like falls apart, is that it's not there. The trust isn't quite there, and it's hard to build. But you know, it's something that we all got to consider and continue to work against. It's that part's not going away.
Yep. I agree. With that said, Demo time, which I'm really curious to learn more about, because when I ask the guest, like, hey, send me one sentence, you can demo basically anything you want,
Yeah.
product related from your employer, project you do on your phone for fun, whatever. And we're like, hey, I build an functioning internet on piece of wood in my garage, or I don't remember exactly, but I was like,
Yeah.
please don't tell me more, because I want to demo and I don't want to learn about it before you demo. But I was like, please do that demo. So
yeah,
what is it? What are you doing, man?
We were just talking. I don't think I can show it without like messing up my camera,
destroying everything.
Which really upsets me. But I have a video that I can share really quickly. Yeah. So the idea was that like I feel as though I work at ngrok, I do DevRel ngrok, and like networking isn't like the only, like it's not the only thing that we do. It's not like we're not doing the sort of like networking of you know, like data center, like that level of stuff, but like networking is at the core of what we do. It's connectivity. And I'm like, I kind of understand how the internet works, but there's a lot of pieces, you know, along the way that I don't understand at all. And I have maybe tried over the years, but none of it's sticky, where I like retain the information and can use it. And I'm like, well, the internet's not going away anytime soon. You know, it's like the most durable thing in the era of like the AI era, because AI depends on the internet to work. I was like, okay, well, if I learn about the internet, then that only makes me smarter. It makes me a better DevRel person, makes me a better, like, you know, better able to like empathize with these people that are trying to deal with these problems. So yeah, I bought a couple of Raspberry Pis. I bought some Ethernet cables. I bought like the stuff that you need to be able to wire these things together. And I'll share my screen and kind of like walk through my experience that I had. Let's see here. I need to do a window. Like the experience that I had when I first connected these things and was trying to understand like I have two Raspberry Pis and I connect them together with an Ethernet cable. It's like, okay, they should start chatting. Like I should be able to see them communicating. So I was like, you know, like, but they're not. Like I don't know what's going on. So I'm like, okay, let's look at you know, what's going on with the Ethernet, like what's going on with the NIC. And I'm like, okay, there's nothing happening here. It's like the thing is down and I can do it on both of them. So this is just for context. This is me SSH'd into the two Raspberry Pis side by side. So I have 1 and 2, just for, you know, the sake of clarity here. So it's like, okay, they're down. Yeah.
Just a quick question. Is it the Little Internet repo? Is it related to the repo, Little Internet repo?
Yeah, that repo is where I'm like writing about these experiences. I'm writing scripts that you would be able to run to like replicate this behavior, even on like virtual, like in VMs, instead of if you don't have the hardware. I figure most people won't have the hardware, so they'll want to maybe learn this stuff in a different way. So this is kind of like why this is a folly for me still, is like, I don't know the right learning method, like the right teaching method here. I'm learning stuff, but I don't know quite yet how to reflect that out. So then what I do is I can plug the Ethernet cables in, which I just did. And then if I run these again, you can see that it changed. Like no carrier changed to broadcast, and down changed to up. I'm like, cool. Okay, so like stuff is happening. But then I would maybe also assume that I could like I could ping one from the other, and it's like, well, that doesn't work. Nothing is happening, and it's going to fail in a second here. So then it's like, okay, why is it failing? Like what's going on here? Why are they not able to communicate with each other? So then actually it's sending many pings. So it's getting kind of stuck here. So then what I started thinking, it was like, well, can I capture all the packets that are running between them and start to try to diagnose this issue, like what's going on here? So what I'm going to do is I'll unplug them again so that we can see what it looks like when you connect two devices together and like what starts getting shared between them. So it's starting to capture, and it should be good now. And I plug them back into each other, and you can see there's like a flood of Ethernet frames here. So then I'm like trying to pick this apart. I'm like, what does all this mean? It's like, okay, I see ICMPv6. I see there's MDNS stuff going on. I'm like, and I see mentions of the two pies. Like here you can see there's two MDNS frames where it's like pi foo 2 and pi 1. They seem to be communicating with each other, right? And it's like, okay, cool. Like, but why I still can't ping one from the other. Like if that part still doesn't work. So like, how are they at once communicating, but also unable to communicate? And, I spent a long time trying to figure out exactly why that was true. And what I realized eventually is that you are seeing them communicate over IPv6, right? Instead of IPv4. IPv6 has a couple of protocols that lets neighbors basically find each other automatically and start communicating. But I'm not thinking, like, I don't think in IPv6 when I'm pinging a URL, like an IP address. Like, this is what I want. I don't want the like super long IPv6 address. And I certainly don't want like a MAC address because that just doesn't work. So I'm like, well, how do I like they're connected and they're communicating, but they're not like reaching each other in the way that I expect. And that's where I start to realize that it's like, oh, I should probably like stand up, the NIC properly, and assign IP addresses to them, because there's no switch here or router, so they're not getting stuff assigned automatically. And then it's like, as soon as the demo is gonna fail me here, isn't it? Usually, as soon as they're connected.
Demo God's not with you.
Oh man, it's so disappointing. As soon as you assign the addresses to them, they're able to start communicating with each other. Of course, now I have 100% packet loss. That's so disappointing. Did I sudo both of them? I did. It was successfully added. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, you can start to then okay, so they're connected to each other, and like, what is happening? And you should be able to see a protocol called ARP, and of course now it's not working. But you should be able to see this protocol called ARP, that it's the address resolution protocol, in which the two devices are negotiating. They're like, there it is.
Yes,
it's actually working. So it's like, this is my device being like, these are the devices being like, I'm at this IP address. I'm at this IP address, 10.10.0.1, and here's my MAC address. And it's going back and forth. So both devices are kind of confirming with the other that they're like, I exist. Here's where I'm at. And here's how you can reach me. And this is usually the way that, okay, now it works. This is the way that these two devices are able to like, they're connected, they're reachable because they have identities. And so I've kind of gone off the deep end, and I've written a super long blog post about ARP because I'm fascinated by it. And there's so much more that I would love to like dig into. But trying to be respectful of the time here, or cognizant of it. This is the kind of work that I'm super curious about right now. And like, again, this kind of idea of a folly. It's like, I'm spending time that I could be working on other stuff, but I'm doing this. I'm having a blast. I'm trying to share my experiences out. And I'm hoping that for ngrok, it continues to like, reiterate for people that we're a company that's trying to teach you about these fundamental protocols of how the internet works. And hopefully that makes you want to consider the stuff that, everything else that we have going on. And I will share just like really, really quickly, so that people can get a taste of what this hardware looks like. I don't know if this works, if it's shared properly. But what I also did was I wired up these OLEDs so that you could track the state of like each device kind of has a cache of the ARP states. So it knows like this device knows that it can reach the other device at a certain IP address, and then it goes stale, and then they reach each other again. And there's this like life cycle to it. And this idea of making it physical so you can like see it happening, I think is my hope is that that makes it easier for other people to understand and learn and sort of start to piece these concepts together themselves. So having a blast with it. Appreciate, me getting through this a little shaky, but we got there. That's the kind of stuff that makes me happy right now. And as much as I can, put my elbows out and try to make space for this amongst everything else, I'm going to keep doing it.
No, that looks like a fun project. And a demo wouldn't be a demo if you didn't have any hiccups. So like that's part of it. That's a cool project too, because as you said, like it's related to the business. I don't know if you plan to do that, because everything seems to be like nailed on the wood, but like that could be like a really cool talk you could do like at a conference about like how I decided to learn more about internet, or come learn a little more about Raspberry Pi, even if it's not, and this is how I use them to do that. And like there is great content for developers that you could take out of it. So maybe it's me doing jobs that are too business centric for the last couple of years, but I always try to, how can I maximize what I do to the next level? So you have that project that is cool, and you have like that GitHub repo. By the way, if people want to learn more and try to play with it, go on github.com/ngrok/little-internet.
There's virtual scripts so that you can, like I said, that it spins up VMs, and so you could do it that way. If I assume most people don't have a bunch of Raspberry Pis sitting around like I do. So go check it out. Would love to hear if anybody gave it a shot and learned something or got stuck or whatever. And it's something I'm working actively on. Super open to feedback.
Wonderful. And sorry, I know I catch your comment a little bit late. But you joined the stream late, so I guess it aligns everything. Do not worry. The recording is on YouTube. We really had a great discussion. You arrive around at the end of the discussion. You missed the first part, but the videos there. Always nice to see you join us for the show. So on that note, Joel, I have the feeling that it brings us to the end of the show. So anything else you want to share with folks?
No, I'm feeling great. I really appreciate the time to chat about some of this stuff. I feel like it was a nice, almost like therapeutic session of just getting to talk openly about some of these problems and some of these challenges. And really makes me be like, I should do this more often with more of my peers elsewhere. So really grateful for the opportunity to come on and share a little bit of what I've been doing.
Thanks for being a guest. I always say it, as much as my ego is big, that show wouldn't be a good show if it was just me. It's all about the guests. You bring your ideas, your comments, your expertise, your question, your demo. So thanks for being the guest. Thanks for everybody who joined us live. And thanks for the people who will also watch the recording. And on that note, every show, I forgot to take a note about who's going to be my next guest or when's going to be the next show. But I am going to be back for the episode 53, I think, of the DevRel show next week on the 16th, next Thursday, with Nicolas Grenier. Grenier, I think Grenier. Yeah, sorry. Nicolas Grenier is going to be my next guest. So it's going to be 3 p.m. on the 16th. I'll be back. And thanks to you, Anush. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the morning, afternoon, evening, night, and see you next week.
All right. Thanks.